Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our iTOOsday.
Hello, Shelley.
It seems.
I do.
Yeah, I see the numbers are climbing nicely. We're now on 419 people so far that have joined the iTOOsday. We'll just wait for a few minutes just to get everybody online, and then we'll start our iTOOsday.
Perfect.
Morning, Sharon. Morning, Oscar. Hi, Bilal. Bright, sunny Durban. So glad. I hear it was very cold down there during this last weekend. Yeah, the wind was blowing crazy. People even put jerseys on in Durban in the last week. So I'm sure you're very happy to see a bright and sunny Durban now. Hi, Heidi. Morning, Teresa. Morning, Pamela. Hi, Lynn. Morning, Lizandra. We'll just wait a few minutes and just see how let everybody get online. But in the interim, the people that are online, you're welcome to click on your camera and sign in via the QR code so that you can get your CPD points. We will show this signage again at the end of the presentation, but if you want to do it so far, you're welcome to sign in on the QR code. So while we're waiting, I thought I'd talk around some numbers because most of the people that are on this call today are claims people, so they're very much around numbers and stats and contracts. So as of today, iTOO is 10 years and 43 days old. And I think after financial year end, we do feel like we have grown by another 10 years. We have aged by another 10 years, but hopefully they'll start falling off again as we get through the rest of this year. For those people that aren't in Durban today, in a sunny Durban, there's 19 days until spring, and I'm certainly counting down those 19 days till spring. It has been quite a cold winter for me. For those that celebrate Christmas and put up Christmas decorations, there's 110 days till we can put up our Christmas decorations. So get ready, get those boxes out and start working on what your theme is going to be this year for your Christmas decorations. For those women who felt cheated that they did not get a public holiday for Women's Day, there is another public holiday coming up soon, and that's in 42 days' time. So hang in there. I know we didn't get to celebrate it by having a day off, but we'll have one soon. For the men, only 3 days till Springboks versus Wallabies. And let's hope that the Springboks give it horns and we can all sit and celebrate, have a nice braai. Hopefully the sun is shining nicely and we can get that done. So is there anybody out there currently they are celebrating any milestones? Pop it in the chat if you are celebrating a milestone, either today, this week, this month. We'd love to hear from you guys. For those that have just joined, you're welcome to click on the sign in on your QR code. In the interim, this will help you to get your CPD points. This will attach onto AC Develop. We will show this QR code again at the end. So if you have any hassles now, just pop it into the chat and we can see if we can try and help. I'm just going to wait for a few more minutes just to let everybody get on board, and then we will start the presentation. Morning, Debbie. Morning, Marty. Hi, Sabrine. Morning, Delian. Could I just ask, as we go through a presentation, if you've got any questions that you want to ask, please post them in the Q&A and we'll get to them. We'll slowly go through them and we'll handle them at the end. Any questions at the end of the call. Give it one more minute and then we will start our Tuesday for today. Could I ask, I see that there are some people on the chat that's coming up as anonymous. Would you mind just making sure that you put your name in so that we can just double check to see that everything is fine with your session that you're attending? Yeah, I think we're gonna get going. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to another fabulous iTOOsday. In celebration of Women's Month, I'm happy to present two beautiful ladies that have come up through the ranks after joining iTOO on our learnership and grad program. Zinhle Tabalala is our iTOO claims specialist, and Tess Oakes is our iTOO underwriter. Both ladies are pivotal in the success of the environmental liability product offering. I'm sure you're as intrigued as myself to learn whose liability is it anyway. Over to Zinhle and Tess.
Morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well today. So as Shelley said, this is our Enviro iTOOsday called Whose Liability Is It Anyway? But I feel just so that we're all on the same page about what Enviro is, we're just going to go into a brief overview as to the product and some claim scenarios. So firstly, what is environmental liability? Environmental liability basically is cover put in place to protect businesses from financial consequences of pollution or environmental damage caused by the spill of, sorry, my notes are all over the place, caused to cover and protect businesses from financial consequences of pollution or environmental damage caused by the spill of an environmentally hazardous commodity. So in South Africa, it's especially relevant due to the strict environmental regulations and the potential for costly cleanup. So with iTOO, we have a product offering that covers you for pollution incidents, and that would be for like spills, leaks, or contamination of hazardous material. We're looking at cleanup costs, and that's for just cleaning up the site where the spill has occurred, and also third-party legal liability. We also have two sub-products, and that is Truck Safe and Site Safe. So who would require cover under Truck Safe? These would be any companies that transport goods through their vehicles or by rail. And our cover also includes site tank cover, but that also extends to leakage of gearbox oil or leakage of hydraulic fluid. And examples of commodities that we will look at under a Truck Safe policy would be fuels, your chemicals, acids, but also things that you wouldn't particularly think of, like milk or paint, and most recently, electronics and lithium-ion batteries. And then under Site Safe, we would look at companies that would store environmentally hazardous commodities, either in underground storage tanks or above ground storage tanks. And for above ground storage tanks, we are looking at also flow bins or drums or IBCs. Examples of commodities that we would cover under Site Safe, also like your Truck Safe, would be oils, your chemicals, acids, gases, those type of things. And businesses we would typically look at under a Site Safe policy would be fuel stations for both operational and pre-operational phases. So that's when it's actually working and when it's being built up. Fuel depots, and also manufacturers who are storing their raw materials on site. So now that we have an idea of what is covered under our product, I think the next logical question would be, what does one do when the unthinkable occurs? And that is where our claim specialist, Zinhle, comes in to provide an understanding on how environmental liability claims are processed.
Thank you, Tess, and thank you, Shelley. I hope everyone can hear me and everyone can see me. I am sharing, so I'm going in blind. Also, it might feel like we're cruising through this, but there's somewhere where we're trying to get. Bear with us. Now let's turn our attention to the claims side of things, right? This is where we actually see the policy come to full effect. So basically, when a pollution condition or spillage occurs, it can have very serious consequences. but not only for the environment, but also for third-party properties, right? That's why it's absolutely important that we are notified immediately of any incident, right? The first step being to contact our 24-hour Spill Safe hotline on the number that is provided on the screen. Now, this is very important because it allows us to activate or to appoint the right service providers to respond accordingly to the incident and also contain the pollution condition quickly and minimize any further harm to the environment. Not just that, but it also ensures that the incident is managed in line with regulatory requirements and in line with the policy. Now, let's take a look at what happens once that call is actually made. So when the insured calls the Spill Safe hotline, they'll be asked to provide some key information relating to the incident. This is basically to help us respond effectively. The information basically includes the company name, the exact location of the incident, the type of product that has spilled, how it was packaged, if it was being transported, and also the estimated volume of the spillage. So this amongst other information that the insured would be asked. After verifying these details, our incident managers at EFI Global will be notified and they will then respond accordingly. Now, response to incidents happens in 3 phases, namely phase 1, which is the emergency response, phase 2, which is the cleanup phase, and phase 3, which is restoration and rehabilitation. With emergency response, basically here the focus is the containment of the pollution condition, basically to prevent any further spread and or damage. With phase 2, this basically deals with the removal of the substance by the appointed service provider using the appropriate methods. And finally, with phase 3, our focus turns to the restoration of the effective environment back to a healthy and functional state. So this may include retarring roads or replacing contaminated soil or water. The structured approach ensures that environmental claims are handled professionally, efficiently, and in full compliance with legal and policy requirements. Now, I mentioned that our incident managers, briefly in the previous slide, and basically they play a very crucial role in incident management. Not only do they dispatch the right service providers on incidents based on the categories, but they also ensure that the correct cleanup methodologies are followed. They assist with guiding our insureds to ensure that the relevant authorities are notified timelessly should there be a need to do so. Speaking of which, in South Africa, we do have the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, which is a government department responsible for environmental affairs, such as managing, protecting, and conserving the country's environment and natural resources. The DFFE's mandate is rooted in the constitutional right to an environment that is not harmful to health and well-being, and to have the environment protected for present and future generations. Which brings us to our focus point today, NEMA. NEMA basically stands for the National Environmental Management Act, which sets out the legal duties and responsibilities for both individuals and companies when it comes to environment protection. I want to chat around 2 sections, namely of NEMA. Section 28, which deals with the duty of care for the environment. This section basically mandates that anyone who has caused, or is likely to cause significant pollution or degradation must take responsible measures to prevent, minimize, or rectify such harm. Then we have Section 30, which deals with the reporting and response to emergency incidents. This includes any sudden, unexpected, and uncontrolled release of hazardous substances that may cause significant harm to the environment, human life, or property. Now, there are various requirements under Section 30, and this is why our claims is in such a way so as to ensure that we adhere accordingly. It is vital that our insureds understand their responsibilities and that we as insurers support them, which brings us to the next part of our iTOOsday, which I'm very excited about. So we have seen a variety of enviro claims, particularly though, we are seeing more and more reportable incidents under Section 13. Now, while some are straightforward, there are those that are more complex. So Tess and I thought, why don't we consider some scenarios and ask our brokers whether they think the incident is a Section 30 or not in a game show that we're calling Who's Liable Anyway? I hope you guys caught what I did there. Tess, over to you.
Thank you so much. So essentially, we wouldn't be able to have this type of show or type of interactive presentation without some experts. So I just want to take time to introduce you to our experts.
Sorry,
First
Tess.
up, yeah.
Before you actually jump into our great experts, maybe let me just give a brief explanation to our brokers as to how the game is going to work. Sorry. So like I said, Tess and I were presenting a few scenarios involving environmental incidents, right? And your role as the audience is to vote whether you think each one qualifies as a Section 30 reportable incident or not. So to participate, simply scan the QR code, which you're seeing on the screen now, or you can just go to menti.com and enter the code provided. Unfortunately, the poll is limited to 50 participants, so it's fastest fingers first. And we really want this to be interactive. So please jump in, share your thoughts. And I think it's a great way to maybe discuss and apply what we've just spoke about previously. So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes or a minute just for everybody to scan the QR code or maybe use the code, and let's join on the Menti, and Tess will take us through our experts.
Yeah, I'm so excited to introduce our experts. I even forgot about this part. So our first expert, we have Willie Buitendag from EFI Global. Willie is a specialist in the management of large, complex environmental incidents and projects with specific and technical legal requirements. He specializes in the consultation, assessment, and project management of large environmental losses, catastrophes, and disasters. Next, we have Kate Swart from Clyde & Co. She's a seasoned commercial litigator with a particular expertise in environmental law and the financial services sector. She has extensive experience in advising clients on environmental liability, rehabilitation, and regulatory compliance, assisting in engagements with regulators. Her focus is on complex disputes and regulatory matters in South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, including regulatory investigations and disputes before tribunals and ombuds, and commercial litigation in both court and alternative dispute resolution forums. And last but definitely not least, we have friend of iTOOsday's Siphamandla Magubane. As a manager of iTOO Africa and environmental liability claims, Sipa's expertise makes him no stranger to the intricacies of environmental liability claims. Welcome, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Tess.
much.
Yeah, thanks for
Tess.
having us.
Welcome,
Yeah,
guys.
I'm looking forward to the game show. Let's keep on.
I think I'm gonna go back to the slide and maybe just give like 30 seconds again for those who are still trying to log on to the Menti. Please just scan the QR code and Tess, when you're ready, you'll take us through.
Yeah. Ready whenever everyone else is.
Maybe thumbs ups will be great to see if you're in and ready and locked in.
Am I allowed to
One.
participate or to give out the wrong answers?
No, not on this one, Sipa. Next one.
Okay.
Okay. I
I'm
think we
good.
can. Yeah, I think we can move on to our first scenario.
Happy days.
So our first scenario is a diesel tanker rollover and fire in a rural area. So a diesel tanker carrying 30,000 liters of diesel fuel overturns on a rural road, rupturing and igniting. This results in the spread of a fire spreading to an adjacent dry grassland, creating a large smoke plume visible for kilometers. The burning diesel contaminates the soil, and a small seasonal stream is nearby. Is this a Section 30? So log on to your Menti and put your votes in. And we will see everyone's answers on the screen. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, right? There we go. We got one
so far.
3. Oh, I'm loving these fast fingers.
Yes, well done, guys.
Oh, done. I'm loving these numbers. Interesting.
Yes, well done, guys.
Okay, we'll give it about like 30 seconds more.
Wow, these numbers are growing.
Over to you, Tess.
Okay, so I think I can pose some questions to our experts. So, Willie, can you give us the first answer? Is our audience correct?
Tess, yeah, thank you very much. I think there's a little bit of a bleed through.
Okay. Is that better? Oh, no, so.
Yeah, sounds better. Sounds better. Great stuff.
Awesome.
Tess, thank you. Yes. The 140, 150, and I see it's still growing, but the 150 that said yes is absolutely correct. This is a must report Section 30 incident. And the reason for that ultimately is that firstly, diesel is classified as a dangerous goods. So it has it falls under the regulations for the transportation of dangerous goods. It is a sudden, accidental, and unexpected and uncontrolled incident. And then subsidiary to that, ultimately, you've got a pollution, not just pollution of the soil and environment in the form of soil and vegetation. You also have smoke emissions, which triggers the Air Quality Act, as well as water pollution, potential water pollution. And remember that the definition of under NEMA Section 30 stated that even if the incident had the potential to create environmental harm, it still needs to be reported. So this is a definite, clear, reportable incident.
Awesome. And then could you maybe explain what would constitute an unexpected, sudden, or uncontrolled release under Section 30?
Look, it's any unexpected incident. I mean, nobody, a tanker is not supposed to be lying on its side. It's an accident, the incident, a sudden occurrence. It could be a fire, an explosion, accident. So anything that causes the product to actually leave its primary containment due to something that all of a sudden happened. So it's not a gradual, tiniest thing like on plants where you've got underground tanks leaking for months in and months out, and all of a sudden the contamination becomes evident in drainage systems or seepage through soil or so. This is a definite immediate event that happens, and you can pinpoint it's got a start date and a time to which it is can be connected to.
Thank you so much. And then Kate, you're up next. Who would be legally liable for reporting an environmental incident? So in this scenario, would it be the fuel supplier, the transporter, or the adjacent landowner whose property has been affected by the spreading fire?
Yeah, thanks, Tess. I mean, Section 30 is very broad, and it actually imposes liability on a variety of people to make sure that everyone jumps to action in the scenario. So the people that are defined in Section 30 as the responsible person is the person who's actually responsible for the incident or causes the incident, as well as the person who owns the hazardous substance. So in this instance, it would likely be the fuel supplier who's paid the transport company to transport the fuel. And equally, any person who's in control of the hazardous substance has an obligation as a responsible person, which in this instance would be the transporter. So, it falls on a variety of people, and ultimately what the section wants you to do is to make sure that it's reported and taken care of as soon as possible. And it should also be borne in mind that, as Willie mentioned, there are other pieces of legislation in play here that may also have their own reporting obligations. So, for instance, there's a fire that's now spread onto adjacent land. The National Fault and Forest Fire Act will impose reporting obligations on that landowner to report the fire and to take steps to try and contain it. And the Air Quality Control Act, NEMA, the National Environmental Air Quality Control Act, will also have its own obligations. So it's quite a complex set of legislation that needs to be considered.
Wow, that was really fascinating. Like, I did not know there were so many acts that were involved in one little incident. So
and the Water Act, I forgot. The Water Act, National Water
Absolutely.
Act will have its own.
Yes.
And then we have one more question, and that's for Sipha. Is there a minimum quantity required to trigger a policy?
Definitely not. You can all imagine what a 5-liter diesel spillage can do in a wet weather condition. For example, if it was next to a farm, there are a lot of cleanup that may have to take place, as well as the legal liability that might be the insured might be exposed to. So it's certainly not a minimum requirement in terms of any amount. And if unsure, then definitely needs to be reported. And then we can address it from our end as well, should we have any questions or any requirements that we need. But definitely not.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to maybe add one more, just for information.
Sure.
Just to say that the pollution ratio of hydrocarbons, of which diesel is one, diesel, petrol, paraffin, even oils and so, is 1 to 1 million. So 1 liter of diesel will actually pollute 1 million liters of water.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Great. Thank you so much, Willie. And then can we move on to scenario number 2?
Happy.
So scenario number 2, vegetable oil tanker rolls over into a coastal estuary. So a truck carrying 28,000 liters of vegetable oil overturns onto a coastal road, spilling its cargo into a sensitive estuary. The oil forms a visible slick, coating mangroves and causing several seabirds to become oiled and distressed. So, guys, put in your votes. Let's start, Menti. Okay. Let's see what we think about this one.
I see the numbers coming through.
No, when you said fastest fingers first, like, you guys are taking it seriously. Well done.
At this point, I think we have an astounding yes. Let's see if we've got any different answers or
Views.
we seem to have 13. Tess, do you want to take us through?
Yeah, I think we can pose some questions to our experts. So,
Yeah.
Willie, again, is this a Section 30? And then maybe could you shed some light on the environmental impact that substances like vegetable oil would have on marine or coastal ecosystems?
Absolutely. Thank you, Des. Yes, again, although vegetable oil is not classified as a dangerous goods under the Dangerous Goods Transportation Act, the Road Traffic Act and the regulations. Say again? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Willie.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I just so it's not classified as a dangerous good. However, this is a large quantity. It is under the definition of unexpected sudden uncontrolled release, and the impact of vegetable oils is almost the same as your hydrocarbon oils, your diesels and petrols, which is classified. So the impact on the environment will be the same. So except for the risk of being slippery on a road surface that can cause secondary accidents and incidents, any of this product ending up in an estuary in a sensitive area will create conditions where the environment is going to suffer. The oil is an organic oil, so the oil on water again will cause severe water pollution. It will also cause depletion of oxygen in the water, so your fish, frogs, your aquatic life is going to suffer. And this needs to be cleaned up the same way as what you would actually clean up a diesel tanker. Now, just the interesting fact about the disposal costs on vegetable oils and vegetable or actually food grade products is the fact that your placement costs at hazardous disposal facilities or disposal facilities are actually more expensive for food grade products than what it is for chemical products, because a chemical product you can react and you can dispose of it and put it away, and it's not dangerous anymore. So they neutralize it, and all they need to manage is the leachate from it. Food grade products, when they decompose, actually causes leachate, but they also emit a lot of unpleasant smells. And that is a big problem for disposal facilities, is to actually manage those smells coming off the disposal sites. And that is why the cost is much higher.
Thanks, Willie. And then another one for Sipa. So this scenario occurs on a coastal body of water.
Sure.
From a claims perspective, would this trigger an environmental cleanup policy or a marine cleanup policy?
No, it's certainly an environmental liability policy whereby it would cover the cleanup and the possible legal liability that arises from that spillage. With regards to the marine, I think it would be more appropriate for the cargo itself, whereas on our side would be the cleanup, the containment of the spillage, and the legal liability. So certainly, definitely, I'm satisfied that this would trigger an environmental liability policy.
Great. Thank you so much, Sipa. I think we can move on to scenario 3. Over to you, Zinhle.
Zinhle, I'm not sure if she's enjoying the session that she'd like you to continue.
Sorry, my network seems to have kicked me off for a bit, and I'm sorry to the viewers. I seem to have been kicked out, and for the past 2 minutes, I'm just going to try and get back up properly. Apologies again, everyone.
We seem to have jumped to scenario number 7. So
yes, I'm going to fix that shortly.
Okay, good.
My apologies,
Oh no,
guys.
spoilers. Look away, guys, look away.
Oh my God.
I think in the interim, I could probably give you scenario 3 and we can start thinking about it. So when the Menti is up and running, you know the answer. So we're looking at a grain truck rollover with dust plumes that's affecting visibility. So a truck carrying 30 tons of wheat experiences a rollover on a busy highway during a dry, windy day. The grain spills across the road, and a large, dense dust plume significantly reduces the visibility for other motorists. This leads to a minor multi-vehicle collision with no serious injuries. No grain has entered water bodies. So guys, have a thought, think about it. Does this stir up Section 30 emotions?
We can maybe vote here.
Yeah, maybe just give a thumbs up or give you a thumbs up if you think it's a Section 30. So let's go old school on this one. Technology is failing us. So give us a reaction if it's a thumbs up, if you think this falls under Section 30. Or you can put it in the chat box as well to see how you feel about that. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs ups. Nice, guys. Looking pretty positive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what emoji you'd like to use if it's not a Section 30. So let's see. Give us the shocked face if you don't feel like it falls under Section 30. Okay, I think we have a presentation. Yay. Okay. So perhaps let's just pose some questions to our experts. So Kate, is this considered a Section 30? And do we have an indication of the timelines for reporting on the cleanup process?
Yeah. So I think maybe just to circle back, because it was a little while ago and I don't know about everyone else, but my memory is sometimes a bit rusty, to what those sort of triggers are under Section 30. You need an unexpected, sudden and uncontrolled release. It needs to be of a hazardous substance, and that hazardous substance must cause or have caused or potentially cause significant harm to the environment, human life, or property. Now, this is a bit of a borderline one because, you know, grain in and of itself, you wouldn't think of as hazardous. The department has issued guidelines to try and assist, and there's a list of things which are deemed to be hazardous, and grain's not on there. But they've also said that it's just a guideline, so it's not necessarily determinative. What will be the test that they apply is to say that it's very quite broad: solid, a liquid, a vapor, a gas, an aerosol, or a combination of any of those, which is a source of danger to persons and to the environment by reason that it's toxic, it's corrosive, an irritant, strongly sensitizing, or flammable in nature, or because it generates pressure through decomposition, heat, or other means. Now, with that broad definition, grain arguably could fall into that. So to be safe, you know, in that kind of scenario, we would suggest that you would issue a Section 30 report. Now, from a timelines perspective, there are two phases of reporting under Section 30. The first is what the department thinks of as an alarm report. That's an immediate report to notify the relevant authorities that an incident has occurred. And that must be done in a very lawyerly time of forthwith. So essentially, as soon as you can. That is just the initial report, and obviously steps need to then be taken, and after 14 days there must be a second report where there's an evaluation of what has been done and a sort of an assessment of what the situation is now that a bit of time has passed and people have been able to step back and analyze what's actually happened and what steps have been taken to remediate.
Oh, and then for like a follow-up question, would the failure to report an incident result in criminal prosecution? And depending on your answer, would there be any sentences or fines applicable?
Indeed, there are some very serious consequences for not reporting where there is an obligation to report. So firstly, it is a criminal offence not to report either of those reports. You know, if you don't submit either of those reports, that constitutes a criminal offence. For first-time offences, the fine is up to 5 million rand or 5 years in jail or both. And if it's not your first rodeo, if it's a second time offence or subsequent offence, the fine goes up to 10 million rand or 10 years in prison, or 10 million rand and 10 years in prison.
My word.
So yeah, it's definitely quite high stakes. And in addition, you know, the department or the relevant authority can issue directives telling people to do whatever it needs to be done. If that directive isn't followed, that constitutes a separate offence and is by itself gives rise to a fine of up to 10 million rand or 10 years in jail, or both.
And then we're going to give Sipha a break now and move on to Willie. Would one would generally not consider like this type of scenario environmentally threatening, but could a non-hazardous substance like dust from grain still pose a risk to the environment or public safety? Willie, you unmute.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. Dust from grain, ultimately it is organic. So there's actually two scenarios that can play off here. Firstly is the inhalation of that dust, which impacts the health of people. So the inhalation of that dust. The second thing of organic dusts that very few people do know of is actually dust explosions that can occur. So in a thick a dust cloud on a windy day where you have got a bit of swirling wind and some of this dust being picked up, you can actually have a scenario where the dust explosion happens. And that creates similar impacts as any type of fire or explosion that happens. You shouldn't have it inside the tank. Usually, explosions is increased, or the effect of explosion is increased by confinement. This type of explosion will be an external dust explosion, but it will be almost like a lightning bolt that will hit the area.
Thanks so much, Willie. I think we're going to move on to scenario 4 now.
Thanks, everybody, and apologies again. My laptop crashed and failed me this morning. So our mentee is a bit stuck, but we still have our scenarios. You can maybe pose your answers in the chat box and we'll check it from there. But let's dive right into scenario 4, which is basically a truck carrying 500 liters of used engine oil, which leaks onto a gravel road. So basically here, what happened is a truck transporting 500 liters of used engine oil in a non-compliant container develops a leak after hitting a pothole on a gravel road. Approximately 50 liters of oil leaks onto the road surface over several hours before it's even been noticed and stopped. So the oil soaks into the gravel and forms a visible sheen on a small puddle of rainwater in a ditch. So I think what we'll do here, maybe let's see a couple of thumbs up to see whether or not we think this is a section 30. I see the thumbs up. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, Willie, I'll start with you in this scenario. Is this a section 30?
Really, this is a borderline case again. Engine oil as such is not classified actually as a dangerous goods under the SANS 10228 and 10229. However, they have identified it as being a marine pollutant, and they still the transport department is still a little bit into split in two if they're going to regulate oils or not. But at this stage, it's not regulated as a dangerous good. This is a sudden and uncontrolled release. So it does tick one of the boxes when it comes to the NEMA section 30 definition. It is a low volume. However, what we must remember is that the difference between used oil and clean oil, there's a huge difference. your used oil has now got certain contaminants in it, which is very detrimental actually to the environment, and that will constitute you to register as part of Section 28 of NEMA, which is your duty of care. Take that responsibility in actually reporting this incident and still dealing with it. You have to clean it up. You have to deal with it. The other issue that's also in the scenario that came up is the fact that the incident happened over a long timeline before it was actually noted and then dealt with. So this incident has to be addressed. It needs to be cleaned up. If it's longer than an hour, if you don't get to it within an hour, then it constitutes a registration. So definitely, according to those risk factors, this is actually a reportable incident. The department may come back and say you're wasting your time with this one, but other regional divisions may actually say that they want you to send them all the evidence that this has been dealt with in a responsible manner. So you've got to rather report it if you're not sure.
Thank you so much, Willie. Maybe let me jump to Sipha. I'm also checking our time. Here's a twist in the scenario, right? Let's say the insured doesn't notify insurers at the time of the incident and appoints their own cleanup service providers, and only a month later, obviously on the advice of their very smart broker, do they notify us and they then submit the cleanup costs. What are the notification requirements under the policy, and why is it so important that insurers are notified timelessly in such cases?
So with this one, it's with an environmental spillage. It's one of those whereby an incident happens, you can't even go on lunch. You just need to make sure that it's reported and attended to immediately. So time is of essence with these environmental spillages. So notification is important so that we can get the appropriate service providers. We make sure that the insured complies with regulations in terms of containment, cleanup, and all the methodologies to be followed. This will obviously come through our independent incident managers like Willie we have here. So that helps as well, just to also to determine whether we need to report it, whether to the department or not. We've recently had an incident whereby the insured, I think, notified us about 4 months later towards renewal. Obviously, there were challenges with that claim. But what we managed to do with that one, well, the insured was almost about to pay that claim. I think the invoice was about 1.2 million rand. Through Willie as an independent incident manager, although it was not a claim that was payable in terms of the policy, we still managed to assist the insured and bring that claim to within 500,000, which was greatly appreciated by the insured. So it's necessary to be appointed on time, notified on time, and get the right service providers appointed. So it's essence, basically.
Yeah. It really does highlight the importance of following the correct, procedure, as I mentioned earlier. And notification isn't just a formality. It's a key part of actually managing the risk.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's jump straight into scenario 5. Thanks, Caesar. So in scenario 5, we've got a leak of lubricating oil from a truck engine. A truck develops a minor engine oil leak while parked overnight in a designated parking area. Approximately 10 liters of lubricating oil drips onto the paved surface, forming a small stain. The leak is discovered in the morning and immediately stopped, and the stained area is cleaned with absorbent pads. No oil leaves the paved area. I'm happy to see any comments on whether the audience thinks this is a Section 30 or not. But I'm going to jump straight into Kate for this one. And Kate, could you share the correct answer with us and maybe elaborate on why it would or would not be a Section 30?
Sure. So Lubricating oil is a hazardous substance. It's identified as and deemed as such in terms of the guidelines, but this is a very small amount. So it is less than the reporting quantity that's been identified by the department. And equally, there have been immediate steps that have been taken to minimize the spread and to ensure that it doesn't actually pose a risk, a significant risk to environment, property, or people. So in this instance, no, it wouldn't be a reportable obligation in terms of Section 30. They've stepped in, they've taken the necessary steps in terms of their duty of care in Section 28. And you know, it's therefore doesn't meet that threshold in Section 30.
Thanks, Kate. Now, let's say if it was a reportable incident, what would be the minimum information that the insured would be required to submit in the reports?
Okay, so for the first report, that alarm report that needs to be submitted immediately, it would be a description of the nature of the incident, what the risks are that are posed by that incident to public health, safety, and property, what the toxicity of the substance is or the byproducts that have been released, and any steps that should be taken to avoid or minimize those steps. So information that's most critically needed immediately for people to react. For the second report, the one that's put in 2 weeks later, it's again the nature of the instance and the nature of the incident, but it's a bit more detailed, and you need to really provide details of exactly what substances were involved, estimate how much was released, and what the possible acute effects of that would be, what initial steps have been taken to minimize the impact, what caused the incident, including if it was equipment, technology, systems, management failure, you know, what led to it after a bit of analysis has taken place, and then measures that can be taken to avoid a recurrence of that incident.
Thank you, Kate. Over to you, Tess.
Thank you so much. So I just want to gauge with our experts. Do you think we have time for one more question, one more scenario? We do have 10 minutes left, so I just want to know, you guys want to do one more?
Yeah, we can do.
Okay, can we have a
go
really
on.
interesting one. So can we go on to scenario 7, please, Cesar? So this is a milk tanker rollover into a small dam. So we have a tanker carrying 20,000 liters of milk that overturns onto a farm road, spilling its entire load onto a small privately owned dam used for irrigation and livestock watering. Within hours, the dam turns milky white and dead fish begin to float to the surface. So, guys, you know the drill. Thumbs up for if it's a Section 30. Shock faces if it isn't.
I love the shocked faces. Thank
Yeah,
you.
they're so cute. Oh, we got many thumbs up in one shock. So let's see if that one shock is, the person.
Turns into multiple other shocks. faces.
So maybe we can check with Willie. Could you give us the correct answer? And maybe some reasons as to why this incident would be reportable or not.
Yeah, for sure. Again, milk is a food grade product. It's an organic product, not classified as a dangerous good. But I'm sure that most of the ladies that had babies before must have had some kind of milk spill in the vehicle and know what that smells like after a few hours and maybe a few days even, and how difficult it is to actually get that smell out.
Yeah.
Now, this again is a large volume of a non-hazardous product. It is lying in a watercourse, although it's a private dam, it's still liability. It's a third-party liability there. It's got a negative impact on the environment. You've got fish dying. You've got water discoloration.
Yeah.
And clearly the environment do need rehabilitation. So under Section 28, Section 30, this will classify as a reportable incident, and there will definitely be rehabilitation that needs to be done on this incident.
And then just as a follow-up question, Willie, and this might come across as a really strange question, but in terms of ecological restoration, would the fish have to be replaced to maintain the dam's ecosystem, or do we just leave it alone and let natural selection take its course?
You know, it all depends on what type of dam it actually. I know that you say it was used for irrigation and so, but we found along the N3 highway, there's actually several farmers that is using water and they extracting water from the river into these private little dams. And what they do is they actually breed tilapia, which is a kerper type fish for export and for retail shops like Woolworths and Pick n Pay and so on. So it all depends what this fish is. It's a natural state. You've got to remember that you've got to restore the environment back to its natural state. Now, it doesn't mean that you've got to go and count the fish and replace the amount of fish that died. Everything can die within that. But you're going to be liable and you're going to be monitoring that system until the natural habitat has actually grown back or it's repaired itself. So that's the only way. Once you can prove that there's fish and frogs and insects and stuff back in that water, at that stage you can potentially get that site signed off and walk away from the incident.
Wow. And then thanks so much, Willie. And then Kate, just as for like an interest standpoint, would directors or senior managers be held personally liable under Section 30?
So not necessarily under Section 30 itself, but certainly if there's criminal liability, they can be held criminally liable in certain circumstances as well. So in terms of Section 34 of NEMA, if there is a criminal proceeding, so if, for instance, there's a company that hasn't made the necessary reports or carried out the necessary rehabilitation, and criminal proceedings are instituted against that company, any directors who were directors at the time of the offence can be equally found to be guilty of an offence themselves, and they face the same penalties. So the 5 million rand or the 10 million rand and 5 years in jail or 10 years in jail. And equally, you know, managers who ought to have done things and didn't do things as part of their job can face criminal liability for that alongside the company that they work for.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. And quickly, while I have these last 4 minutes, Sipha, just to throw a quick spanner in the works. Let's say this incident happened on an international basis, right? Does our environmental liability policy cater for incidents that occur in other regions or other countries, maybe in Africa?
Yeah, definitely. Our policy now covers incidences outside of South Africa. It's just for insurers to look into our policy schedules and the wording territorial limits, as well as plan their routes accordingly as well. I think that's the most important part, because you need to understand which routes you'll be using, what kind of routes are they. And I think risk management is more important than anything in this case. But definitely we do cover some sub-Saharan Africa countries as well, mostly. But I think it's most important for our clients to look into the policy wording and schedule.
Thank you so much, Sipha, and thank you to everybody online for joining us for this game segment called Who's Liable Anyway? We apologize again for the technological difficulties, but I'm glad to see that everybody kind of joined hands together and we made it work. Thank you for engaging, and I hope the scenarios did help bring to life, you know, some of the complexities and nuances of environmental liability claims and how important it is, you know, to act swiftly and be compliant with the right support. Tess?
Yeah, and also I really hope that we gave an opportunity to learn something new, because I don't know if I can speak for you, Z, but I work in this situation, like in this environment every day, and I've learned things that I didn't know about. So I hope we did the job. You got to learn something in a more interactive way, and you know, we brightened your day a little as well.
Please, guys, don't forget to sign out. And to our experts and Shelley, thank you so much for joining us today. I think the gist of it is that environmental incidents can be unpredictable, but with the right cover and the right processes and the right support and partners, I'm sure we can manage them effectively and responsibly. Any last comments from our experts?
Nothing from my side. All things are happy. I just wanted to answer a few questions here. I saw a question whereby they ask in terms of if the driver is unwell and cannot report the incident. Normally, I think I'm aware that some of the traffic officers they look into the vehicle details and they can call and assist. So we do have stickers that are attached to the trucks whereby they've got a spill safe number, so they can assist in reporting those. And obviously, would look into each matter case by case. And then from an underwriting side, I saw a question if we'd look into some risk. I think please do reach out to Shelley and Tess, our underwriting experts here, but definitely would look into it. If they can assist, they'll definitely lead you to the right direction. But there are definitely stuff that we can chat about offline.
Thank you for attending to those questions, Sipha. Willie, Kate?
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity, and I'm glad to see that there were so many people on the on this iTOOsday platform. It is important that we take environmental serious. The law is definitely taking it serious. We've probably got one of the best constitutional and environmental laws in the world. And they through the fines, you can already see that they are taking it serious. So government is definitely going to implement more serious. There's already quite a few prosecutions and so on that has happened over the last few years based on the NEMA Act, as well as other acts where there was contraventions. So slowly but surely the implementation of these acts is starting. So rather report if you're not sure. You can never overdo something, but if you underdo it, there can be severe consequences. So
Correct.
Absolutely.
we will assist where we can.
Thank you, Willie. Last words from you, Kate?
Just to echo, as Willie said, there's a lot of legislation out there. There are potentially very big and serious consequences, and it's definitely better to be safe than sorry to report it and get the necessary relevant authorities on board, so that no one can turn around and accuse anyone of not taking the necessary steps at the time.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. And if anybody online has any questions for our experts or any claims or underwriting related questions, you're more than welcome to pop us a mail and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for joining our iTOOsday. We'll see you next time on our game segment of Who's Liable Anyway? Bye, guys.
Thanks, team.
Yes.
Hi guys, I just wanted
Bye.
to just say that the presentation will be on our YouTube channel once it is recorded, so it will be on there within the next week or so. So if you need to look at the presentation again, you're welcome to go onto our YouTube channel, our iTOO YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.